The windshield wipers struggled against the relentless onslaught of snow, barely keeping pace as Leo White guided his 18-wheeler through the treacherous mountain pass. Each mechanical sweep revealed only a fleeting glimpse of the road before the blizzard swallowed it again in a white, howling blur. The headlights seemed to barely dent the darkness, and the CB radio crackled with static warnings from other truckers, warnings Leo couldn't afford to heed. His fingers ached from 12 straight hours clutching the wheel, the bones in his back grinding with fatigue, his eyes burning from exhaustion and too much caffeine. He should have pulled over hours ago, but stopping wasn't an option. Not tonight. Every mile behind him meant another dollar earned, another inch closer to saving the one thing that still gave his life meaning: his daughter, little Kate. Just 6 years old, with freckles like stardust and a laugh that once filled every corner of their cramped apartment in Milwaukee. 3 months ago, her world changed. She'd collapsed during recess, coughing up blood. The diagnosis came swiftly, mercilessly: systemic cystic fibrosis. The prognosis? Grim. Her lungs were deteriorating faster than most cases, and traditional treatments had done nothing. There was one glimmer of hope: an experimental therapy being developed out west. The catch? It wasn't covered by insurance, and it cost nearly $300,000. Leo's world collapsed that day. He had always been a hard worker, the kind of man who fixed his own brakes and never missed a shift. But nothing could have prepared him for this. He and Sarah, his high school sweetheart, now his wife of 14 years, had done everything they could. She picked up nights at the hospital cafeteria, somehow juggling 2 jobs while still sleeping on a plastic chair next to Kate's bed. They sold their car, their furniture, drained their savings, maxed every credit card. A GoFundMe had brought in a few thousand, mostly from kind strangers and old army buddies. It wasn't nearly enough. So Leo did what he knew best. He drove. He picked up every shift, every cross-country haul no one else would touch. Like this one, a dangerous last-minute job to haul medical equipment through the Rockies in the middle of a storm. The wind screamed like a living thing as it slammed into the side of the trailer. Snow whipped across the windshield in thick, blinding sheets. Leo hunched over the wheel, willing his way forward 1 mile at a time. He kept thinking of Kate's last words before he left. "Daddy, if I get better, can we go see the ocean?" He blinked away tears. That's when he saw it. At first, it looked like just another snowdrift on the roadside, misshapen, wind-blown. But as he passed, something in his peripheral vision jolted him. A color, a shape, something off. He hit the brakes hard, the trailer fishtailing behind him as the massive rig groaned in protest. Gravel and ice crunched beneath the tires. Leo grabbed his emergency kit and jumped into the storm. The cold hit him like a punch to the chest. Snow poured into his boots as he stumbled through the wind. His breath froze on his mustache. And then, there she was, half buried in the snowbank, her body curled awkwardly, lips tinted blue, skin pale as bone. She looked like a ghost. An expensive wool coat clung to her frame, soaked and useless against the bitter cold. Her hand was still outstretched, as if reaching for something before she collapsed. Leo dropped to his knees beside her, brushing snow from her face. His army training kicked in. Pulse, barely. Breathing, shallow. He opened her coat, feeling for warmth. None. Time was running out. That's when he noticed the ID badge clipped to her lapel, its lettering half obscured by frost. Emily Vanderbilt, Chief Research Officer, Sterling Biomedical. Leo didn't know the name. Not yet. But something told him this wasn't just a coincidence. He hauled her back to the truck, cranking the heat and wrapping her in every spare blanket he had. For a few agonizing minutes she was silent. Then her eyelids fluttered. She mumbled incoherently, "Trial. Sabotage. They tried to—" Her voice trailed off as her head slumped back. He sped the rest of the way to the nearest hospital, hazard lights flashing, praying she'd survive. When they wheeled her away, the nurse asked for details and Leo hesitated. He almost didn't mention the badge. Something about it felt personal, maybe even dangerous. But he handed it over. Then he drove the rest of the way home in silence, arriving at dawn, numb with exhaustion and too weary to take off his boots. He collapsed on the couch and didn't dream. 3 days later, everything changed. Leo sat beside Kate's bed, holding her tiny hand as the machine beside her beeped steadily. Her breathing had grown more labored, and her eyes were rimmed with shadows. Sarah sat nearby, clinging to hope, clutching the stuffed bear Leo had won for Kate at the state fair 3 years ago. It felt like they were living in a slow-motion nightmare. Then the door burst open. Dr. Kessler, the chief of pediatrics, strode in with a stunned expression. "Leo," he said, breathless, "there's something you need to see." He handed Leo a manila envelope. Inside was a letter from Sterling Biomedical and a check. Full coverage of Kate's treatment, access to the new gene therapy, travel expenses, a private room at their flagship facility, all arranged, all anonymous. Leo stared at the letter, his heart pounding. But who? The doctor smiled and handed him a card, thick and embossed in gold. It bore the Sterling Biomedical logo and a handwritten note. For the man who stopped in the storm, E.V. Over the next few weeks, the full story unfolded. Emily Vanderbilt wasn't just a corporate officer, she was the heir to one of the largest pharmaceutical fortunes in the country. The therapy Kate would receive. It was Emily's brainchild. She'd spearheaded the research, pouring her fortune into developing a cure for the disease that had killed her own sister decades earlier. The sabotage she'd mumbled about in the truck was all too real, an internal betrayal by her husband, who wanted to sell the formula to a foreign competitor. When Emily found out, he'd tried to silence her. She escaped his private compound in the mountains, barely surviving the trek through the storm. And she would have died there if Leo hadn't stopped. Today, Leo sits at his desk in a sunlit office at Sterling Biomedical's new Community Outreach Division, a division Emily created just for him. His job? Helping families like his navigate the impossible maze of medical debt, treatment access, and insurance red tape. On his desk sits a framed photo. Kate, 12 years old, her hair grown back, her cheeks full of color, beaming as she cuts the ribbon at the grand opening of the Vanderbilt Children's Pavilion, a treatment center built on the very mountain pass where Leo saved Emily's life. Sometimes late at night when the building is quiet, Leo stands by the window watching the city lights below, remembering the storm. Remembering how close he came to passing that snowbank. Remembering how one impossible night changed everything. And every time, He whispers the same two words he's whispered every day since: "Thank you."